After my shower, I wrapped myself in a towel and walked into my best friend's room. I held up a row of camisoles and asked her which one looked best with my new red dress. She didn't respond for a long moment. Then, her domineering CEO uncle, unexpectedly, spoke up instead. The black one looks best. I was stunned. Main story. I had an important interview at Blue Rock Technologies tomorrow. To prepare, I dragged Megan to the mall to help me pick out that red dress. Red has always been my lucky color. I wore red dresses during my college entrance exam, my thesis defense, and even the day I kicked my cheating ex to the curb. While we were eating, Megan received a call, and her expression immediately dropped. Even her brand new limited edition handbag couldn't cheer her up. "Mary," she muttered, "my second uncle's back. I'm sleeping over at your place tonight." Suddenly, my bowl of crispy sausages didn't taste so good anymore. A tall, commanding figure flashed across my mind. Megan didn't notice me zoning out. She angrily bit into a pickled bamboo shoot and mumbled through her teeth, "Ugh, Mary, I'm so jealous you don't have a second uncle." There was no way to respond to that. Feeling a little guilty, I glanced at her, then quickly dumped all the duck feet from the pot into her bowl. She sniffled dramatically. "Woo-woo, Mary, you're so good to me. If my uncle weren't so averse to women, I'd be afraid you'd end up single because of him. I would have set you up as my second aunt long ago." "Averse to women?" I forced a laugh. "Girl, I think you've misunderstood your uncle." My head was filled with pixelated thoughts I couldn't dare show. In front of Megan, I had no choice but to pretend calm. "Megan," I said, "your uncle's too old for me. I couldn't handle it. I prefer younger guys." Megan nodded seriously. "True." I finally let out a sigh of relief. Thank God that conversation was over. I was renting a 2-bedroom apartment. I had one room, Megan had the other. The main reason was that I'm a very restless sleeper. After being kicked out of bed a few times, Megan refused to sleep with me again. At her strong insistence, I finally gave in to financial pressure, and we rented this apartment together. Most of the time, I had the place to myself. The moment we got home, Megan dashed straight to her bedroom and flopped onto her bed. "Mary, I'm going to shower," she called out. "By the way, I think that red dress might be a bit see-through. I'll try it on later, help me decide which underlayer looks better, okay?" "Got it." Half an hour later, I wrapped myself in a towel and went back to my room to grab a row of undergarments. Then I walked over to Megan's room. "Megan," I called out, "which of these looks best underneath?" No response again. I looked up. A deep male voice suddenly rang out. "The black one looks good." On Megan's big bed sat a phone, propped up and perfectly angled to capture my current state. "Ah!" I screamed. "What? What happened?" Megan, still holding a half-eaten bag of spicy chicken feet, glanced at me, then at the phone on her bed. She slapped her forehead. "Crap," she blurted out and rushed over to hang up the video call. "Mary, I was hungry earlier. My second uncle called me on video, so I just answered. I didn't think. Good thing you don't have a habit of walking around the house naked. This pig. She's so dumb she might as well explode." Remembering the heat in that man's eyes and his low, husky tone, my face flushed bright red. Megan looked at the items in my hand, then picked out the black one from the bed and handed it to me. "The black one really does look good." That night, Megan sulked the whole time because I didn't make her a late-night snack as usual. Serves her right. Back in my room, I saw a new unread message pop up on my phone. Why not just ask me if it looks good? Huh. Shameless. It's not like I'm wearing it for him anyway. Blushing, my face burning, I dove under the covers. Images from earlier kept replaying in my mind, frame after frame, until I had no idea when I finally drifted off. At the first ring of the alarm the next morning, I woke up. I quickly did my makeup, made breakfast for Megan, who was still fast asleep, and headed out the door. Blue Rock Technologies was a leading force in Yun City's tech industry. As a computer science graduate, it was every student's dream to get in, and I was no exception. When I arrived, the waiting lounge was already packed with people. Yep, competition was fierce. Clutching my resume, I found a quiet corner to sit. I had barely settled when I overheard a hushed conversation nearby. "I heard the big boss is here today," someone whispered. "They said he's planning to pick one of us to bring back to headquarters for special training." "What's so special about that?" another replied. "Don't they select the top candidates for headquarters every year?" "Oh. I see," I thought casually. I hadn't paid much attention to who the big boss was. I had applied specifically to the R&D department at Blue Rock, and my prep had been focused entirely on that. About half an hour later, the interviews began. A man who looked like an assistant started calling people in, one by one. My nerves began to stir. This was, after all, my very first real interview since stepping into the adult world. Then it was my turn. Holding my resume, I followed the assistant into the conference room, and instantly froze the moment I saw the man seated in the center, exuding an unmistakable aura of dominance. Nathan. His deep, magnetic voice called out, "Mary." My heartbeat spiked in response. Only when another interviewer gently prompted me did I manage to sit down, right across from him. I began reciting the self-introduction I had carefully prepared in advance. Though I kept my gaze fixed on the other interviewers, I could still feel that familiar, intense, and teasing stare trailing every move I made. That damn man. So that's why he sent me that message last night. Once I finished my introduction, the other interviewers asked me a few professional questions. I answered each one clearly and confidently. Nathan, on the other hand, hadn't said a word since calling my name. He just lounged in his wide leather chair, lips curled slightly at the corners, lazily tapping his long fingers on the desk. And right under his palm was the photo I'd attached to my resume. My ears began to burn. This was torture. We'd been seeing each other for nearly 6 months now. Every time he smiled like that, I knew I was doomed. The atmosphere in the room fell into a heavy silence. With Nathan saying nothing, the other interviewers dared not make a decision. One by one, they glanced at him, then at me. I knew exactly what Nathan was doing. That petty man. If anyone should be upset, it should be me. He knew I was coming to interview at Blue Rock, yet I had no idea he was the CEO of Blue Rock. TCH. The thought made my spine straighten and my eyes lock firmly onto his. I wasn't backing down. Nathan's lips curved faintly. Then, without warning, he stood up. The other interviewers immediately followed suit. As he walked toward the door, surrounded by the group, he casually tossed out a line, "This one. Have her report to headquarters tomorrow." "Yes, President Lee." "Well then. Looks like I've just used the back door." My phone buzzed in my bag. At a time like this, I didn't even need to check to know which dog it was. Stepping out of Blue Rock, I immediately spotted the familiar black business car parked across the street. So flashy. I tried pretending I hadn't seen it, but my constantly buzzing phone wasn't going to let me off the hook. After checking left and right to make sure no one I knew was around, I hurried over like a thief and yanked the car door open. Just as I climbed in, bam, Nathan's cold, handsome face was right in front of me. Shit. Miscalculation. Now I was halfway in, halfway out, bent over at an awkward angle, stuck in a position that was both uncomfortable and undignified. "Could you scoot over a bit?" I asked. He didn't move an inch. "Ugh, Your Highness." Suppressing a sigh, I tried to back out so I could enter from the other side. Inwardly, I cursed myself for ever getting involved with this man. Damn it. Lust truly is a deadly sin, and I was paying dearly for mine. Just as I started pulling back, Nathan reached out his hand. Snap. The door slammed shut behind me. Caught off guard, I landed awkwardly on the seat, my entire back pressed up against the car window. "Nathan, what the hell?" In my panic, my usual temper slipped out. Nathan chuckled, a low, alluring sound. "Mary, I was just closing the door for you. If not for that damn handsome face of his, I would have punched him right then and there." "Thanks." I gritted the word out between my teeth, then dusted off my imaginary dirt and attempted to crawl my way to the inner seat. But before I could make it, Nathan stretched out one long leg. As I straddled over, my upper body practically brushed up against him. Even with a thin layer of red fabric between us, I could still feel the heat radiating from his body. "Nice dress," he murmured. "Shame you picked the wrong thing to wear underneath." "Nathan. Where do you think you're looking?" His deep eyes were locked on mine, a teasing glint dancing in their depths. My heart skipped a beat. I saw his perfect lips start to part, so I panicked and slapped my hand over his mouth. "Shut up. Don't say a word. This man, what the hell is wrong with him? Why does he always turn into a flirtatious mess when he's around me? Where was that composed, mature man everyone else knew? Now he was just plain indecent. Like right now." I looked at my hand still covering his lips. He actually licked my palm. Even just a single swipe was enough to make my pupils quake. Damn it. He knew I wouldn't let go if I was afraid of what dirty words he'd say next. The driver was still up front. I shot Nathan a glare. Only then did he finally behave and pull back his leg. I finally had room to sit properly, except he still hadn't let go of my hands. They remained firmly locked in his palms. I didn't struggle. Just hands. If he wants to hold them, then let him. Halfway through the drive, I looked out the window, watching the bustling streets grow livelier. I blinked in confusion. "Where are we going?" "To take you shopping." Woo-woo. Bring back that version of Nathan from our first meeting, the cold, aloof one who looked like he lived untouched by the world. But there was no winning against Nathan. Just like how an arm can't twist past a thigh, I couldn't resist him either. And so, I was dragged along by his hand, matching his purposeful strides as we headed straight into the mall. He stopped in front of a store. I looked up, and buzz. My mind went blank. I instantly understood what Nathan meant by shopping. Men. Especially men like Nathan, polished, composed, exuding gentlemanly charm on the outside, but underneath? A walking flirt. As I stared at his perfect side profile, that jawline worthy of sculpting, my mind drifted back to the first time we met. It was sophomore year of college. After a year of getting to know each other, Megan and I had grown close, best friends. One day, she asked me to go home with her. Watching her sneak around like a thief just to get in the door, I was completely puzzled. "My second uncle is home today," she whispered. He was the one she feared most in the entire house. Stoic. Stern. Authoritative. A single look from him was enough to make you shiver. That was how she described her second uncle. And so, naturally, I imagined some middle-aged, serious-faced man. Just as Megan and I took off our shoes at the entrance, a tall and imposing figure stepped out from the hallway. Right then, I silently apologized in my head. Her uncle was something else. He might have looked older than us, but the air of refinement and power he carried was leagues above anything we could touch. Outstanding. I only glanced at him once before quickly averting my eyes. No matter how handsome, he wasn't mine to admire. I had a boyfriend. "Uncle," Megan greeted sweetly. The man gave me a cool glance and responded with a short before walking away. As he passed by, I could feel his gaze linger on me. I furrowed my brow and looked back, only to see he'd already disappeared. Just like Megan said. A man you couldn't help but be afraid of. That was the first time I met Nathan. Like tossing a pebble into a still lake, ripples formed and vanished just as quickly. Back then, I never would have imagined how soon we'd meet again. And how miserable I'd be when it happened. I started dating my boyfriend in sophomore year. He had chased me for a whole year. He told me he first saw me during the freshman welcome gala, wearing a red dress, and fell for me at first sight. From that day on, he barely attended class, just followed behind me like a shadow. He did everything a perfect boyfriend should do. Every single thing. Maybe I got used to it. Or maybe, at some point, I truly believed he was a good guy who deserved a chance. So I agreed to date him. My parents had loved each other their entire lives. I thought love would be like that, lifelong companionship and devotion. But my so-called model boyfriend taught me a harsh lesson. We had barely been official for 3 months when he cheated. I caught him red-handed, too. He was wrapped around some scantily clad girl, kissing her like the world didn't exist. It was the girl who noticed me first. She tapped his back gently. And what did he say? "Oh, Mary, we've been dating for 3 months and you haven't even let me hold your hand. Am I really your boyfriend? Or just the guy who fetches food and saves you and your best friend seats?" I was stunned. I had never thought that was how he defined our relationship. Looking at the girl in his arms, I finally understood what he wanted. "Sorry," I said. "I'm not giving that." I gave him one last look, then turned and walked away. But he wasn't done. "Mary," he shouted. "With your old-fashioned, uptight attitude, who else would want you if I didn't chase you?" I ignored him. When a dog bites you, the best way to get revenge is to find a fiercer dog to bite back. Not that I'm calling Nathan a dog, of course. That thought only came later. Even if I knew he wasn't worth it, the pain still lingered. Heaven knows, I never treated him like a tool. I had even planned to bring him home to meet my parents after finals. I was serious about that relationship. Boom, thunder cracked overhead. I stared up at the sky in a daze. Lightning streaked wildly across the clouds, followed by deafening claps of thunder. Right then, Megan messaged me. "It's about to rain. Help me buy some snail noodles and drop it off by my dorm." Fine. I bought the noodles from the exact shop she specified. On my way back to campus, the rain came down in torrents without warning. I had nowhere to hide. No shelter. Not even an overhang. And of course, when it rains, it pours. In a rush to run back, I didn't notice the puddle under my feet. I stepped straight into a rain-filled ditch. The noodles spilled everywhere, and I went down with them. The thunder, the lightning, the downpour, no one was around. No one saw. So I did the only thing I could. I sat there on the ground, soaking wet, and burst into tears. Just as I was crying my heart out, the rain above my head suddenly stopped. Through tear-blurred vision, I saw a pair of men's dress shoes step into view. Water droplets shimmered on their polished leather surface. I looked up, and through the mist, a familiar face slowly came into focus. I quickly wiped my tears. There it was, Megan's second uncle. Given how close Megan and I were, it only seemed right to greet him. My dad had raised me to always be polite. So I choked out a soft, "Uncle." The next second, the umbrella above me tilted away, drenching my upturned face in a rush of rainwater. This uncle is a little mean. We stayed frozen like that for a moment. Then Nathan shifted his umbrella back over my head. His voice was low and gentle. Are you done crying? Strangely, in that moment, all my sadness vanished. All the hurt that had been choking me just a second ago faded like smoke. I even felt a little embarrassed. What were the odds? Of all people, it had to be him who saw me lying in the street like a drowned, sobbing fool. I quickly tried to get up. Maybe because I'd been sitting for too long, my legs were numb. I wobbled halfway up, only to stumble and nearly fall again. That's when a large, steady hand reached out and caught me. It was the first time I'd held a man's hand other than my father's. And this was a man's hand, not a boy's. That warmth transferred to me in an instant, and with it came a sudden sense of safety. Thank you, Uncle. The words had barely left my mouth when I felt Nathan stiffen. He glanced at me, something unreadable flickering in his eyes, but before I could decipher it, his voice cut in coldly. Get in. I'll take you back to school. So moody. No wonder Megan's scared of him. I awkwardly climbed into the car. The cold air inside made me shiver. The next second, a blazer that smelled faintly of tobacco was draped over my shoulders. Uncle, I'm fine, achoo. Okay, maybe I wasn't. The warmth of the car slowly brought back my clarity, washed away by the storm. I started to wonder, why was Nathan even here? And on this tiny path near school? He said he had come to find Megan, and when he saw me, someone who looked familiar, he remembered I was her friend and got out to check. What a perfectly reasonable explanation. And yes, I believed him. Then he asked me what had happened. Why were you sitting alone, crying like that? Maybe the car was too warm. Maybe his face was just too good-looking. Or maybe he gave me the kind of calm that reminded me of my father. Whatever the reason, I told him everything. I would never forget that afternoon, when the rain poured endlessly, and I sat inside a car beside a man who comforted me gently and told me that life was long, there was more to it than love. Maybe now I understood why so many young girls fell for older, refined men. Nathan drove me all the way to the school gates. Before I could get out, he handed me a takeout bag from the back seat. Give this to Megan. When I returned to the dorm, Megan took one look at my drenched, miserable state and ran over in a panic. I brushed her off with a few vague words. She ended up spending the entire afternoon furiously cursing out my ex-boyfriend. As for what Nathan and I talked about in the car, I didn't say a single word. From that day on, it felt like I kept running into Nathan more and more often. Maybe I should have washed and ironed that blazer and returned it properly. To thank him, I invited him out for some cheap street food. One meal led to another. And soon, we were familiar. We officially became a couple just before my college graduation. That was also when I discovered that Nathan was, without a doubt, the classic, cold outside, spicy inside, kind of man, sulky, domineering, and secretly black-bellied. It all started when Megan insisted on celebrating my thesis defense with something extravagant. So she dragged me out to see the world. What she meant by that, apparently, was a bunch of pretty boys with rosy lips and flawless faces. Megan, I want to go home, I said. But she wouldn't let me leave. Huh. She clearly just wanted to come for herself. I had no choice but to give in to her puppy eyes and stay to hang out with the group. It was all going fairly innocently, until one boy casually slung his arm over my shoulders. Instant goosebumps. That's when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, and my heart skipped a beat for no reason at all. The name on the caller ID made me feel strangely guilty. I immediately shrugged off the boy's arm and stepped outside to answer the call. The line connected. Nathan's deep voice came through, laced with quiet displeasure. Come out. I blinked. Megan's still inside. He gave a cold chuckle. I'll deal with her later. By the time I fully processed what he said, I was already sitting in Nathan's car. There was no driver today. Nathan was behind the wheel himself. I sat stiffly in the passenger seat, stealing glances at him from the corner of my eye. Yep. He was mad. His face was cold, his expression unreadable. Sigh. There's no such thing as an easy life with a mature man. I was just thinking about how to comfort him when he suddenly spoke first. Did you have fun? His voice, his look, it was unmistakably jealous. The thought made my pupils contract slightly. I quickly shook my head. Mary, pull yourself together. What are you thinking? But the next moment, Nathan reached over and grabbed the hand I was fidgeting with near the seatbelt. Mary, he said, how are you this dumb? How did you even get into Peking University? Boom. It felt like a bolt of lightning exploded inside my head. Nathan pulled me closer to him. Those eyes, ones I had met countless times, were now gleaming, shimmering with a light that seemed to ripple through me. He said softly, Mary, I can't wait any longer. I'm afraid that if I keep holding back, acting polite and patient, I'll miss the girl I want most. Oh no. Fireworks went off in my dizzy head. Then he added, Mary, don't be afraid of me. Don't resist me. I mean it, I'm serious about you. That night, Nathan said so much, words that left no room for doubt. And for the first time, I realized that after all these months together, something inside me had already changed. Nathan wasn't just someone anymore. When we finally made our relationship official, Nathan's first instinct was to go deal with Megan. I stopped him in a panic. I told him, let's not tell her yet. I'll wait until after graduation. Well, that after graduation still hasn't come. All this time, Nathan has complained that I refused to give him a proper title, that I forced him to play the role of a man hiding his girlfriend like some shameless cheater. Fine. Maybe I'm the shameless one. Especially that night, our graduation dinner. Megan got me drunk again, and the last thing I remembered was Nathan pinning me against a wall and kissing me breathless. Mary, a deep voice called. What are you thinking about? Your face is so red. His warm breath brushed against my ear, pulling me back to the present. When I came to my senses, Nathan had already chosen something. It goes well with your dress, he said with satisfaction. Phew. After half a year together, Nathan's calm, mature facade was almost entirely peeled away, layer by layer. Be good, he said with a smile. Go try it on. Try your grandmother. I thought angrily. Just as I was glaring at him, ready to argue, I caught sight of someone familiar out of the corner of my eye. Megan. Wait, wasn't she supposed to be at home sleeping off her hangover? Why was she here, in this mall, and heading straight toward this store? My heart dropped. Instinctively, I grabbed Nathan and dragged him into the fitting room. Nathan froze for a second, immediately trying to leave, but I threw my arms around his neck and pressed him down. Mary, he began. Megan's here. I hissed. Shh. The air inside the fitting room instantly thickened. I looked up. Nathan's face had darkened again, like he couldn't believe how ridiculous this was. I was dying inside. It's not like I wanted to hide this forever, but how was I supposed to tell my best friend that I was dating her uncle? Especially after I'd teased her a dozen times, calling Nathan an old bull and mocking his age. If Megan ever let something slip, knowing Nathan's temper, I'd be a dead sprout before sunrise. No. Absolutely not. My mind was spinning with disaster scenarios when I heard Megan's voice outside, chatting with the shop assistant. She was shopping. Of course she was. The tension dropped another 10 degrees. Seconds crawled by like hours. And then, the man in the fitting room started to move. I shot him a glare. Nathan gave me a look of pure innocence, as if his eyes were saying, "You're the one who dragged me in here. Nathan, don't you dare." But his lips were already on mine, carrying a heat that was half punishment, half indulgence. My heart pounded. I pushed weakly at his chest, terrified someone might hear what was happening behind the curtain. And of course, because fate is cruel, the shop assistant's voice came right then. "Miss, are you done trying that on?" I nearly cried on the spot. Nathan whispered something in my ear. I didn't even catch what he said before I nodded frantically. Only then did he finally let me go. At the checkout counter, I noticed the clerk holding an extra item that hadn't been part of my purchase. All the blood in my body rushed to my face. Nathan, you absolute dog. After leaving the store, I was still terrified Megan might not have gone far, so I refused Nathan's offer to take me to a fancy rooftop dinner. Once we got in the car, he asked where I wanted to eat. I looked him up and down, tailored suit, polished shoes, air of a CEO. Then I smirked. Half an hour later, I was pulling Nathan through the maze of street food stalls behind campus. Grease from the fried skewers had already splattered across his immaculate suit. More than once, I saw his lips twitch. I knew, at his age, Nathan was all about clean eating and healthy habits. When he took me out, it was always Western restaurants or fine Chinese cuisine. Before we got close, I never would have dreamed of bringing him somewhere like this. Even after we did get close, I still thought this kind of noisy, smoky place didn't match his elegant vibe. But today? He totally deserved it. Nathan, just one bite. It's really good. I scooped a spoonful of fruit yogurt and held it up to his lips. The cheap plastic spoon, already chipped on one side, was bending under the weight of a giant watermelon cube. Nathan glanced at me once, then suddenly leaned forward and kissed me, right at the corner of my mouth. He murmured, smiling. You're right. It is delicious. My hand trembled. The watermelon slipped off the spoon and plopped back into the yogurt, splattering white streaks all over his shirt. Nathan only smiled, warm and unbothered. Ah. I swear I'll never eat fruit yogurt again. By then, students were starting to come out in groups. A few girls noticed Nathan, some even sneaked out their phones to take pictures. The charm of a mature man, wealth, looks, and that effortless authority in every gesture. Nathan had all of it. And though the world didn't know his other side, the teasing, possessive one that only I saw. The public version of Nathan was dangerously irresistible. Suddenly, I regretted bringing Nathan here. Right in front of those girls who were secretly checking him out, I boldly linked my arm with his. In response, Nathan smiled even more brightly and gently patted my head. Mary, if I hadn't run into my ex-boyfriend, everything would have been perfect. Just now, I'd been too immersed in Nathan's teasing to notice my ex and his new girlfriend walking straight toward us. How unlucky. I instinctively tried to walk away with Nathan. I really didn't want him to know just how blind I used to be. Mary, just because I dumped you doesn't mean you need to spiral like this, my ex scoffed. A sugar daddy? Seriously? Huh? Blind? The only blind one here was him. Where did he get the confidence to look down on Nathan? Eric, I said coldly, can you please manage your girlfriend? Tell her to stop eyeing my boyfriend like that. Eric froze. He glanced down, just in time to see his girlfriend staring at Nathan like a total fangirl. He shoved her away in frustration. He stepped forward, sneering at me. Mary, you always act so prim and proper. But here you are, clinging to some old guy in public. Shameless. His gaze was full of contempt. Let me guess, this sugar daddy gives you a hefty allowance? TSK. If I had known you were this kind of woman, I would have just thrown money at you back then and saved myself the trouble. What a jerk. I spotted the fruit yogurt drink in Nathan's hand and was just about to grab it to smash in Eric's face, when Nathan caught my hand. He gave it a comforting squeeze. Then his lips curved into a cold, bone-chilling smile. In the next second, he raised his phone and dialed a number right in front of Eric. I saw Eric's expression shift immediately. President Reed, Nathan said calmly, I just had the displeasure of running into your son. Unfortunately, your family's manners seem to be lacking. I don't believe it's in our company's best interest to cooperate with a family that lacks proper values. Therefore, the Yumming Mansion project ends here. Tomorrow, I'll have my secretary reach out to discuss terminating the partnership. So this was how a mature man dealt with problems. No shouting. No drama. Just pure dominance through status and power. It was amazing. Eric turned pale, his jaw practically on the floor. Before he could say anything, his phone rang. Unsurprisingly, the voice on the other end started yelling so loudly that we could hear it even without speaker mode. As Nathan led me past Eric, his voice was like ice. Young man, you've got a long life ahead of you. Too bad you've already ruined it. I didn't snap out of my daze until we got into the car. I was still floating from how cool Nathan had been. Then a shadow leaned in toward me. Nathan pressed his forehead to mine, his nose brushing intimately against mine. You're that happy? Yes, I whispered. Really happy. Who wouldn't feel good being defended like that? Unable to resist, I wrapped my arms around his neck and shyly kissed his lips. Nathan, thank you. And I'm sorry. It was my blindness back then that dragged you into this mess today. As soon as I said it, a warm kiss landed on my eyelid. Mary, you're not blind at all, he murmured. In fact, I should be thanking him. If he had appreciated you, I never would have had the chance to meet someone as amazing as you. Sniffling, I buried my face in his chest and hugged him tightly. The car's atmosphere turned sweet and tender. Come to my place tonight, Nathan said, whispering beside my ear. I want to see you wear what I picked out for you. Smack. I was slapped by reality. Nathan was still a dog. The next morning, while that dog of a man was looking fresh as ever, I was groaning. It's all your fault, Nathan. I have to report to work today, my first day as an intern. Tears welled up as I dramatically accused him of being inhumane. Nathan was buttoning up his shirt. Hearing my complaints, he dropped to his knees in front of me. God, this old man really had no shame. No, stop. Why was I admiring his face again? I'm the boss, he said smugly. I make the rules. Mixing business and pleasure. As soon as Nathan left, my phone rang, my best friend. She immediately launched into a colorful rant, ending with one pointed question, where the hell did you go last night? Huh. I was just about to call her myself. If she hadn't dragged me to that shop yesterday to buy that thing, I wouldn't be lying here now, completely drained. In the cafe, my bestie had been staring at my neck for 5 whole minutes. I blushed and took a sip of coffee, trying to hide my guilty conscience. That bastard Nathan. Who knows what got into him last night? He insisted I officially announce him as my boyfriend. He said he didn't want to be the man in the shadows anymore. Of course, I refused. And in return, I got thoroughly punished. Damn it. I'd even applied a thick layer of concealer this morning and wrapped a silk scarf around my neck. But my bestie still saw right through me. I hadn't even sat down before she reached over and untied the scarf, then gave me the look. I knew exactly what she was waiting for, a confession. I went for a cupping session. I offered weakly. Do you believe me? She snorted through her nose. I'm online. Urgent. How do I talk my way out of this? I was about to cave when she suddenly said, forget it. You look so blissful. Whoever it is, he must treat you really well. I glanced around nervously, worried someone might overhear. Still, you don't need to be that understanding. Mary, I'm so annoyed, she suddenly whined. What's wrong? No wonder you asked to meet up. You're upset. Well, let me comfort you then. She was my best friend and my future little niece-in-law, after all. My parents are setting up my second uncle on a blind date, and somehow I got dragged into it, she groaned. They said having a young woman there would lighten the mood. Like I'm some prop to enhance the ambience. Mary, you know how much I hate those self-important rich girls. Always putting on airs like they're royalty. Apparently feeling that words weren't enough, she pulled out her phone and showed me the photos her mom had sent her, one by one. No wonder she needed to vent. Those girls in the photos? Just their faces and figures were enough to scream perfection. They really would look good with Nathan. My heart suddenly dropped. Sorry, bestie. I can't comfort you anymore. I think I feel even worse than you now. So that's why Nathan was acting so strangely last night, because he's being pressured by his family to go on blind dates. With these beautiful, accomplished, well-connected girls, I don't even remember how I parted ways with Megan. By the time I got home, the sky was already dark. I buried myself under the covers and lay there for a long while in silence. Then Nathan called. I didn't answer. I just texted him, I'm really tired. I just want to sleep. Nathan didn't say anything more. He simply replied, get some rest, and didn't reach out again. As I stared at the phone screen fading to black, all those differences between Nathan and me, the ones I'd been trying so hard to ignore, started to rise to the surface. Damn it. Stop overthinking. Sleep. The next day, I reported to work at the Lee Corporation. While filling out forms at the front desk, I saw Nathan walk in, surrounded by executives. He was radiant. Untouchable. Just as his gaze was about to sweep my way, I squatted down and hid behind a huge decorative vase. Only when he entered the elevator did I dare to stand back up. Right into the receptionist's confused stare. I gave her an awkward smile. In the blink of an eye, a week of internship had gone by. Nathan was very busy. I knew that. The company had taken on a major project that required his constant oversight. Even as an intern, I often had to stay late and work overtime. During this time, I did still see Nathan. But it was always in passing. Rushed. Fleeting. Once, he pinned me to the car and muttered through gritted teeth, just wait till I'm done with this project. I'll make it up to you, properly. I just smiled. I'd been hearing a lot about Nathan from coworkers lately. But the Nathan they talked about sounded like a completely different man from the one I knew. That's when I realized, a door had quietly opened in my heart. A door that whispered, you're not enough. Not experienced enough. Not capable enough. Not worthy of receiving Nathan's love with ease. So I chose to back away. Even when Nathan finally carved out time to take me to my favorite barbecue place, I chose that moment to break up with him. He froze for a few seconds. Then calmly asked, why? And I cried. Nathan let out a long sigh and didn't say a word. He quietly drove me home. Before I got out of the car, he pulled me into an embrace. Then drove away, without looking back. When I got home, I took a bath, put on a face mask, and went to sleep. Did it hurt? Of course. But that's life, isn't it? No matter who you lose, you still have to keep going. After the breakup, I threw myself into work. My efforts were noticed, and I was offered a full-time role ahead of schedule. Time moved quickly. Over a month had passed. Given my position, I had no chance of seeing Nathan directly. But rumors about him still found their way to me. Like today. Someone snapped a photo of Nathan having lunch with the heiress of Dew Industries. My mind drifted. I spilled hot coffee on my hand. It stung, badly enough to make my eyes water. That night, Megan messaged me, saying she wanted to hang out the next day. It was Saturday. Lately, she'd started dating someone, and hadn't been staying over like she used to. I replied with a simple okay, still distracted by what I'd heard earlier. What I didn't expect was for Megan to suggest meeting at Time Light. I hadn't been there in ages. The moment she said it, my heart gave a soft jolt. Time Light was a tiny, artsy little shop. Not very big. The owner was super laid back. One of the walls inside was covered entirely in sticky notes. Customers would write down wishes and paste them up. Megan and I had found this place during our freshman year. We thought it was interesting, so we both wrote a wish and stuck it on the wall. That was years ago. Why had she suddenly remembered it? When I arrived, Megan was already waiting by the door. She greeted me with a glowing smile and tugged me inside. Seeing how happy she looked, I couldn't help but stare at her a little longer. We both had our secrets now. Why are you staring at me? She laughed. And why here, of all places? Just curious, I replied. Still smiling, she said, I'm here to fulfill a wish. I blinked. This isn't a temple, you know. Megan walked to the wall full of paper wishes, scanning intently. I suddenly understood, she was looking for that old sticky note she wrote. So many years had passed, and the wall was more crowded than ever. She searched for a long time. Since I had nothing else to do, I started searching too, trying to find the one I'd written back then. And I found it. But, something was off. Back then, I only wrote one line. So who was the jerk that scribbled their own wish on top of mine? What kind of cheapskate doesn't even buy their own sticker? I was annoyed. I tore mine off, wanting to get a better look. One glance. And I froze. The handwriting? I knew it all too well. How could it be? At the same moment, Megan exclaimed, "Mary, look. This is the one I wrote. I hope the guy I secretly like falls for me." Can you believe it came true? Isn't that kind of magical? My mind was blank. I didn't even hear her clearly. This best friend of mine. So adorably oblivious. Clearly, all the good genes in the Lee family had gone to one particular man. Otherwise, how had she not noticed anything off about me all this time? Still babbling, she asked what my wish had said. I smiled back at her with the calm wisdom of an elder. "Megan, you're going to have a second aunt soon." "You mean that Do Industries heiress?" she asked, confused. "No," I said with a smirk. "Nathan's just working on a project with her family. Besides, she's already engaged, her wedding is tomorrow. So it's definitely not her." As she stood there stunned, I took the chance to dash outside. "Nathan, you dog. Faithful to the end. Always watching over me from afar. I was so stupid. There's no such thing as pure coincidence in this world. Out of all the people on earth, how is it that I kept running into you?" The wind rushed past as I ran, my eyes beginning to sting with emotion. The little paper in my palm felt as hot as my heart. All the excitement from before gradually faded as I arrived at the towering building of the Lee Corporation. I looked up at it for a long time. Then, silently, I pulled out my phone. I didn't hesitate. "I'll be waiting for you at home tonight." After sending the message, I smoothed out the sticky note in my hand, over and over, before carefully tucking it into the back of my phone case. Then I turned and headed toward the supermarket. Time to prepare tonight's love-filled dinner. I thought, even a mature man needs surprise and romance sometimes. Nathan came home much earlier than expected. When he walked in, I was in the kitchen searing steaks. "Mary," he said, "did I forget something today?" His tone was just like usual, as if we had never been apart. The spatula in my hand froze midair. In my heart, I replied to him silently, "Today is the day I get to know Nathan all over again. You can rest for a bit. I'll call you when it's ready," I said aloud. But before I even finished speaking, Nathan had already taken off his coat and stepped into the kitchen. He hugged me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. "What should I do?" he murmured. "I don't feel like resting. We've already wasted so much time." The implication was clear. He raised his wrist slightly, showing me the time on his watch. I pursed my lips and playfully pushed him away. "Nathan, I spent the whole afternoon preparing this. I haven't even eaten yet." Sure enough, Nathan stopped and gave my cheek a playful squeeze, his voice a little hoarse. "Fine. I'll deal with you after dinner." Then, he rolled up his sleeves and started helping out, as if we were an old married couple who'd lived together for years. I couldn't help smiling, and the rhythm of my movements became lighter, more joyful. With Nathan helping, dinner was ready in no time. I even asked him to open a bottle of red wine specially. Nathan looked at me with slight surprise, raising his brow. "Mary, are you sure you want to drink?" I nodded. He poured a generous splash of red wine into my glass. The atmosphere was perfect. Nathan simply watched me quietly and didn't ask anything more. After a few glasses, the alcohol began to kick in. A soft haze blurred the edges of my vision, and my heart felt unusually light. Looking at Nathan's handsome face, I slowly spoke. "Nathan, did I ever tell you that I once did something really silly?" He hummed in curiosity. "I once followed someone's advice to write down my deepest wish on paper." As soon as I said that, I noticed Nathan's hand tighten around his wine glass. I pretended not to see it. Standing up, I walked toward him, step by step, until I was standing right in front of him. I leaned down slightly and said softly, "Nathan, do you know what my wish was back then?" Our eyes met. In his gaze, I saw emotions he could no longer suppress. I reached into my phone case, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and placed it on the table in front of him. "Mary, you." This time, I kissed him first. "Nathan, I love you." A breeze blew past, lifting the small paper note off the table and sending it fluttering to the floor. On the paper, my youthful handwriting stood out clearly: "To love, to cherish, for a lifetime, just the two of us." And beneath that line, someone had responded, "Mary, what you wished for, I will give you." Nathan. Oh God. It was just too sweet. So yes, this older man, I've made up my mind. I'm keeping him. Extra, the day I became Mrs. Lee. The moment we stepped out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, my best friend practically charged at me with a 40-meter-long sword. She'd stormed all the way from inside the building to the front steps. Thankfully, Nathan stepped in between us and gave her a cold glance. "Call her Auntie," he said flatly. She instantly deflated and obediently muttered, "Auntie. Good girl. I might have pushed my luck a little too far that day." The consequence? She made me treat her to an outrageously expensive meal. Even though it was my husband's card that took the hit, it still hurt my heart. She went home with the entire trunk packed full of limited edition goodies she'd picked out. Ah, women, there really is no grudge in the world a limited edition handbag can't solve. And if there is? You probably didn't buy her enough of them. After we got married, I spent ages trying to get Nathan to admit. When exactly did he start falling for me? I always had this feeling that it might have been earlier than the day I wrote that wish on paper. But Nathan was tight-lipped. Whether in bed or out of bed, he refused to say. I tried everything. In the end, all I got was one sentence: "I'll tell you on our 50th anniversary." I stared at him, stunned. No wonder Mr. Lee had recently been taking such good care of his health. I gently cupped his handsome face. "Well then, Mr. Lee, you'd better live a long, long time. Because I'll be waiting for that answer." "I will," he said. "I'll grow old with you, Mary." And so, from that day on, I never asked him again when he first started loving me. It didn't matter anymore. What mattered was, we hadn't missed our chance. And hand in hand, we'd walk forward together, for the rest of our lives.